What's going on, people? True Techno Gamer here with another one. Pretty quickly, I thought this would be pretty cool here. So, first of all, let me give a shout out to this site, man. This is one of my favorite websites out there. It's called ElAnalistaDeBits. They do awesome comparisons, detailed, cool music in the background, but they show if you ever interested Xbox Series versus PS5 versus PC versus last gen PS4, etc., etc. Like they have awesome comparisons, and they get them out really fast. So shout out to this site. I don't know them, but if they happen to watch this video, I am acknowledging you. I'm not coming up with this content, guys. What I want to do is actually watch this with you, and I'm gonna talk through it because we're going to look at Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The game is technically not fully out yet. It comes out the 28th, which is this Friday. But we have an early access campaign. It's the full campaign. The full campaign is available if you pre-order the game. I'm actually in the process of playing it myself. But outside of that, the information is out there. People are beating the game, etc. So this site is showing a comparison here between PS5, PS4, and PS4 Pro as well in the middle of that. And I'm looking at this, man. I'm watching this, and I'm like, I got to do a video about this because I think we might have finally be leaving last gen behind. Now, there's been a handful of games that have really shown the difference between PS5 and Xbox Series compared to the last generation consoles. But most cross-gen games, quite honestly, are basically just up-res with higher frame rate. They're higher resolution, higher frame rate on the current gen system. So PS4 and Xbox One, I mean, the core game still looks the same, and for the most part, you're still getting the same experience. But yeah, you might have 30 frames on the old gen and 60 frames now, or you might have 60 frames on old gen and 120 frames now. You might have 1440p, for example, on the PS4 Pro, and full native 4K on the PS5. In some cases, it's not even that big. I mean, there's cases where Xbox One X is doing native 4K, right? So really all you get is like a frame rate boost or something like that on the Series X. So anyway, this is finally showing, I think, that there is quite a gulf between PS5 and PS4 in this case. And I was like really surprised. I was blown away. Like, whoa, like this is a big difference. So if you're playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on your old systems, PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, my condolences. I think it's about to be a wrap. You're missing out. Clearly, you're missing out on a good portion of the system, of the aspect of the game. So let's watch it. Let's watch it together. I'm gonna walk through and I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna highlight, some of the differences. And I think this is a cool illustration for those that aren't looking at this stuff side by side. So let's check it out. So here they're going over the resolution. I don't know. Hopefully this shows up on YouTube, but there is an actual bump up for PS4 Pro, and then we get the PS5. Now the resolution is higher, but that's not the main thing. Let's pause it right here. That's not the main thing. Look at these side by side. I want you to pay attention to how much is actually missing in this scene. When you look closely at the scene, hopefully you can see my mouse as well. I'm gonna highlight some of this stuff, but this house over here is completely different. This section here with the roof is missing detail on the old gen systems. Little details like this little, I don't even know what it is. Looks like a metal, some kind of metal platform or something is missing on the roof on the last gen systems. Details here on top of the roof where this wire is, this piece here is missing on last gen. The window here has a whole nother layer of detail that's missing on last gen. Even little pieces of the house like this little thing right here is missing. There's shadows that are missing over here on this part of the house as well. It's dark, man. It's like a big difference. Look at the foliage area over here. There's like details here that's missing. Look at the plant here. Even on the PS4 Pro with a little bit more resolution, it doesn't look much like a plant. It looks pretty bad actually. Here you can see much better on the PS5. It is actually a plant. There's obviously improvements on the shadows over here. I'm like, wow. This individual rocks that are here present on the PS5 that are missing here. So we're starting to just see now, a lot of times when you see objects missing, that seems to point more to memory. And maybe that's what it is. This isn't like a, GPU power or CPU power type thing necessarily. But nevertheless, obviously it's clearer, it's higher resolution. We get dynamic 4K. It's essentially like a reconstructed 4K. And it's a reconstructed 1512p on the PS4 Pro, and it's a reconstructed 1080p. It isn't even a native 1080p on PS4. So your resolution is generally something lower than 1080p. And you can see that. It's definitely blurrier. But yeah, a lot of things missing here, guys. Let's keep going. Again, I want you to pay attention to how much detail, how much object detail is there on the PS5. All right, now they're flipping. Now, okay, let's pause. So when you look at this in isolation, this is by the way a famous scene right now, infamous scene. It's making its rounds on the internet because it's Amsterdam and it looks pretty darn good. The attention to detail, the accuracy. If you look at it at a glance on the PS5 and PC especially, it looks pretty convincing, right? It has a lot of detail. The PS4 and PS4 Pro versions in isolation still look pretty good, right? But let's pay attention to what happens when we go up to PS5. There's a lot of things that happens here, right? Let's keep going. So that's the PS4 Pro. Everything is generally the same here, but it's a little bit higher resolution. You might notice, hopefully a little bit on YouTube, that things look a little bit sharper. There's a little less aliasing and shimmering on, some of like the fine detail, the thinner piece of metal here. It's not as bad. But watch what happens. Okay, hold it. Again, they didn't do a side-by-side in this video, which is interesting, but there's a ton of stuff that was added here. First of all, you can see the reflections here are much more detailed and more prevalent, much more realistic looking. There are full trees that are added here that was missing on the previous versions. And then, yeah, just a lot of the detail. There's objects that were just missing. And if you look on the sides of the canal here, that are here now. Let me see if I can go back. There we go. All right. So literally you can count. There are 1, 2, 3 trees on this left side here, right, on PS4. Right. But when we get to PS5, look, there's like 5 trees. They look better. They look more detailed, higher resolution. Right. And we can see a similar thing on the left side. There's changes to the building here. If you see my mouse, the windows, we saw the changes there. The trees here look different, quite different. Reflections, like I mentioned, you see that you don't really see that reflection detail at all. On the PS5, you can literally make out objects in the reflection. And this isn't ray trace, guys. This isn't ray trace reflections. This is the screen space. But you see better detail on the windows and on the building here, as well as, again, just a lot more object detail over here. This like area here, you can see that difference. It's quite stark, actually. Again, not common to see this level of difference in most games. And I was like, especially a game like Call of Duty, which clearly is cross-gen and, has a foundation where this engine has been being built on PS4 for years, actually. So pretty interesting, guys. One more look at it. All right, load time. This is always the area where we should see a big difference for the current gen systems, and we do. Here's PS5, pretty much loaded into the scene in 7 seconds flat. And we gotta wait, and keep waiting. They had to speed it up to show. And finally, PS4 Pro, we get a little bit faster, and the PS4 is still going. So look at that. Essentially, from PS5 to PS4, there is almost a 7x, it's actually 6x, a little bit more than 6x faster loading. And that's not even as big of a difference. The fact that it takes 7 seconds, that's pretty good, but there are obviously a lot of cases in PS5 where we see like 3 seconds or less. So it's not the best case, but clearly it's way better than what you see on the last gen. Just saying. But we kind of expected that, right? Let's keep going. Reflections. Again, I pointed this out already on the Amsterdam scene. Let's see. This scene is probably going to show a little bit. You can see some reflections in there for sure. On the PS5, again, the detail on the reflections is a lot clearer, especially like look at this area. Sorry, look at this area here. It's just easier to see. You can literally make out the individual spokes of the fence in the reflection here. So much different. Here's the FPS check. I think we kind of know what this is generally going to be. You're going to get a flat 60 hertz, and for the most part on this PS5. PS4 Pro is actually pretty stable as well at 60 hertz, but we can see that the PS4 drops a bit. It's not horrific, but it is dropping into the 50s quite a bit. I'm going to skip ahead on this section here a little bit. Hold on. I want to focus on the graphic differences, but yeah, we already know performance is going to be better, more stable on the Pro as well, and on the PS5. The other interesting thing is that if you do have the PS5, as you will see here in a second, PS5 has a 120 Hz mode that runs at 1440p. That's quite a nice balance, right? You get something between 1080p and 4K and 120 Hz. Now, as you can see, the 120 Hz mode is not stable. It's not like a locked 120. But the difference, when you see performance drop to 100 Hz coming from 120, in gameplay, you're not really going to see that and feel that too much. You're not going to see it and feel it as much as you would going from, dropping frames from 30 to 20, let's say, or even going from 60 to 30, 60 to 40 and stuff like that. At the higher FPS you get, the less noticeable those kind of drops become. So generally speaking, it's still going to be pretty good. Now, here's an example of some model details they're trying to highlight, but there's more interesting stuff going on here. Not with the models, but again, how much is actually missing? Did you catch that? Okay, let's go back. Here's PS4. Again, on a glance, you clearly can see that it's blurrier. The resolution is lower, right? We get that. We get that. But not just that. Go to the Pro. It should look a little sharper. We see that the alien thing on like the fence over here and the bars in the window is a little bit less. But other than that, it still looks pretty much the same. But then we get to PS5, and you probably didn't notice it. Let's go back. Here's PS4 again. And here's PS5. What did we see? Again, there are complete sections, and especially in the distance here, there are trees that are missing. See, look over here. Look up here. Okay, let's go back. Trees missing. Trees missing. There's trees missing over here as well. Right? And here's PS5 again. Okay. Right? Again, there's whole detail. Look at the side of the house here compared to PS4. Right? There's like peak parts of this curtain here is missing. It's just interesting. Again, it might just be a memory thing, and maybe we finally have topped out in memory. Again, there's a whole object here on the house. Again, look at the detail on the ground. The rocks is completely flat now and lower res and missing. There's some detail missing. So again, it's it's a lot bigger than what we typically see. There's going to be some bigger examples here in a second too, guys. So let's keep going. Again, resolution. I'll point out the obvious thing. The obvious thing here for resolution is if you look at the tree line here. Again, we see how much more dense it is. But look at the tree line. Let's pause it. Look at the tree line. On PS4, it doesn't even look like a tree, right? It's a blurred mess of something. I mean, it's a tree, but yeah, look at it. It doesn't look like a tree. The additional resolution on a Pro, at least you can kind of make out, oh, it is leaves. But there are some gaps here that we don't see on the PS5. You can't see this building right here on the PS5 because it's denser. And it obviously looks more complete. We see more trees, right? But other than that, it's not a huge difference you can make out here. Again, reflections look more detailed for sure down here. But again, we'll see some better examples as well going forward. Let's keep going. Keep it going. But I mean, this is cool. Here, draw distance here. I think this one isn't going to be as big of a difference. Again, expect to see the same thing I'm mentioning. Trees, a lot denser foliage here for PS5. But this isn't the biggest example. You see, again, look at the left side here, right? Just look at this whole section here on PS5 where we have foliage and trees. We go back, it's completely gone. Now, again, if you're just playing the game, you're probably not going to notice this, right? But there's other things I think that I've shown already that you might notice. But in general, it's just a lot fuller, looks a lot better. Let's keep going. Okay, and this is trying to show shadows off. Again, we see the increased resolution with the Pro. Shadows are pretty much the same there. And then we jump to PS5. Now, the shadow detail is clearly better. Most of it is probably just due to the higher resolution. But clearly the shadow detail is better. Again, there are some, you can see some foliage missing. Look at this foliage here, it's gone on the last gen systems. There's other detail, the foliage down here you can make out a lot better, but this isn't a huge difference. But in terms of the shadows, yeah, this isn't terribly exciting. It is more detailed on the PS5. It's sharper and in higher resolution. That's basically it. But again, out here you can see more detail behind the fence in terms of foliage and just ground detail that's missing completely. And look up here. I mean, this is just look a little flat. It looks really blurry here. It's kind of flat here. And now you have, again, 3D vegetation going on here on the PS5. More geometric detail here as well. There's some bigger examples coming, guys. Stay with me. And of course, I will link this video in the description. All right, so this is interesting, guys. Look at this resolution. Now, the same resolution, again, you can see that this is a little clearer, but that's not the more important thing. I want to show how much has changed. Have you noticed how much here is changed on the PS5? There's a lot of little details that have changed. Again, look over here by the building. This tree here is missing. This tree here looks a lot more detailed. The tree in general here looks like it has more leaves on it. Look at the detail on the window here, right? That's missing from the last gen. What else? Look at the size of the building here. There's shadows from the tree. That's a lot clearer. There's detailed here on the windows. Again, that's completely missing. Look at the bridge. Look at how much more shadow detail is here because, again, there's more trees. It just looks a lot more realistic, right? Even the shadows that are present on last gen don't really look that great, let's be honest. The detail underneath the bridge here looks better for sure. Even the shadowing and the occlusion on this boat, you can see it looks a lot more natural. Again, it has to do with the shadows coming from the trees that's largely missing on last gen as well. And if we go back like a little bit, I want to go back to like when they showed the comparison. There's details as well. Let me go back here. There's details as well. This is the Pro. Yep. So PS5. Again, look at the reflection detail. When you're playing the game, this kind of stuff makes a difference in terms of just feeling a lot more natural. You can see the people. You can see the lamppost. And it just has that sheen that looks a lot better, a lot more natural. Here, there's a little sheen, but things are pretty foggy, pretty fuzzy. You can't see the reflection detail quite as well, right? The water obviously looks a little better as well, the shading on it. And again, there's detail like this tree here. If you see my mouse here, if you go back, is completely missing, right? So again, it just changes the overall look of the environment. You also can see things like the distant shadows. Look at the shadow on the building here, like over here, right? If we go forward, pretty, much more natural, right? And this kind of, it's a lot of little things, guys. Like, look at the detail on the church here. Like, again, the windows and such here. Look at how much worse and how much flatter. I'm looking at the Pro now, not even the regular PS4. But it doesn't, it's not as convincing, right? The detail isn't there. You see the shadows from, the objects here. So it just looks a lot better. And we saw that already with the areas over here on the side as well. Yeah, look at the detail here with the bikes that are missing. Right? So pretty big difference when you really put it together. So this is that scene that we saw earlier, right, in the house. They're talking about draw distance. Again, I already kind of went over this, but you'll see there's whole additional piece of foliage. There's rocks there. Look over here. There's rocks here. Look at the trees coming in over here and over here, right? Stuff like that. So that's cool. Now here's another case. These ads. Here's another case of a big difference here. So the Amsterdam scene again. Look at this, guys. You probably didn't catch it all, but they have it side by side here. So let's look at it real quick. How much is going on here? By God, we can see additional detail, foliage missing here by the bike here, detail on there, foliage there. If you look, the resolution, you can see better details in this boat over here, right? The reflections, again, this is a great example of reflections, which is the point of this. You can see through to the sky actually, right? And you can actually see the objects way better than you can in last gen. The sun rays, the actual shaft, they're a lot more convincing here. Look at the distance here. This boat right here is missing on last gen. Not just that, we see more shadows because there's more trees that are not rendered on last gen. So we see shadows here on the bridge. The boat here is more detailed. We can make things out better. Look how much is missing on the road in the distance back here. There are like what, 1, 2, 3 cars back here that are missing. The bikes over here are missing. So again, this goes into the draw distance, which we saw before, but I think this is a better example of it. And even as we look close, this is a great example of resolution, guys. Look here at the sign on PS4. It's a blurry mess. It's some white specks. You can't make it out. Here, you can actually, with the PS4 Pro, you can make it out a bit more. It says hotel something. This little piece under here, you can't still make out, right? But on PS5 at 4K, look at that. That hotel, it's like, you know, having a new prescription for your glasses, right? The hotel looks pretty clear. And, you know, the text under here looks a lot clearer as well. And even here, look right here, on the PS5, we can kind of make out, right? That it says, you know, Hotel Cafe or something cafe. Sorry, I can't make it out. But here, you can't hope to make it out. The letters literally look different. They're thinner. You know, they're a mess. You can see that says cafe. It's a lot clearer. You can just kind of get a feel for what the difference in resolution makes there. But yeah, I mean, this is a great scene. I think that should highlight the differences. Again, it seems small, but it adds up when you look at it. Almost done, guys. Let's keep going. All right, this one is interesting. Let's look at this one. So they're saying models, but look closely. Now, this is a room. It's the interior, you know, area. But look at it, guys. You catch it on PS5? Look at how much more detail is there. You gotta ask, like, yeah, you gotta ask, why is there so much additional detail here? Like, why did they cut so much out? Did you catch it? Let's look. Look at the area here on the floor, right? All of this is missing. On PS4 Pro, all of it is missing, gone. Besides the fact that, yeah, the textures are sharper on PS5, but look at what's on the desk here. Like, right, whole other objects here. This box over here, it's not there. Back here in the distance, right, that vase or whatever is missing. So again, it's just like there clearly is a lot of detail and a lot of areas in the environments that are missing, which again just adds to the sense of realism, sense of immersion, the sense of these places feeling more real. You know, again, you wouldn't probably notice this if you played this in isolation. You're not going to say, "Oh wow, this scene looks like it would be a lot better if we had a vase on this table," right? But yeah, when you look at it side by side, you're like, "Wow," right? It's a lot of stuff missing here. So just bringing the point home. So there you have it, guys. I just thought it was interesting, man. I'm looking at it like, wow, you know, PS5 is clearly making a difference. And of course, there's even more detail on PC. Not so much object missing, but again, texture detail, shadow detail, things like that, lighting. But yeah, what you think? I mean, was that a generational leap in your opinion? Was that gap there big enough to justify going up to a PS5 and Xbox Series? Again, Xbox Series is going to pretty much be identical to PS5, as is typically the case. But yeah, that delta and that gulf between PS5 and PS4 was pretty interesting. PS4 Pro, you do see some benefits there, mostly in resolution. And there was actually some scenes that had a little bit more detail. So yeah, you do get a little bump there. But man, like, some scenes are transformed, you know, I think. Like the Amsterdam scene, I think is much better on PS5 with the additional density and additional detail. Frame rates being completely stable. If you want a higher frame rate, you can get to 120, which is awesome. So, you know, again, another good one for current gen now. But I think we're, you know, might be finally seeing the true arrival of next gen. So let me know what you guys think. If you notice things, are they big differences to you? Are they not? Do you not care? You know, does this make you considering upgrading, right, potentially? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you the next one. Thanks.